Sup nerds! So like I mentioned on my GPD Win 1 video, I did want to start covering the weekly free games given away by Epic Games, of course given away every Thursday and available to claim for a week, because I did notice that a lot of people, including myself, were just automatically claiming the free games without even knowing what they are or whether they're even fun, and more often than not ending up not playing them. So I figured I could play them for a few hours, tell you what I think of it, and then try it out on my handheld PCs to see if they run well on those, because I do like gaming on the go and I do think that these free games can be a decent game library to have on your handhelds. And this week, Epic Games is giving away Undying. I must admit, I have never even heard of this game before, despite it having been out since 2021. But right out of the bat, Undying does pique my interest. It takes place in a zombie apocalypse and tells the story of a mother who gets bitten right from the start of the game and has to teach survival skills to her son as they try to hold out until the next evacuation attempt. I can already see that this is going to be one of those heartbreaking games, and I am here for that. The graphics are nothing to write home about though. In fact, they don't even have faces. And just like most zombie apocalypse survival games, you do have to scavenge materials and food, craft weapons, better materials, upgrades for your base, plant vegetables, cook, gather dirty water to purify them later on, etc, etc. But the difference here is that you can teach your son Cody how to do all that. So even though doing it yourself might be faster, teaching him how to do these things and having him do it can help him survive for a possible future in which you're no longer a part of. I know, so ranching. Not only that, but even if you pick the easiest difficulty out of the three, you soon realize on the very first in-game day that your resources are very limited. Not to worry though, once you get your car up and running, you can travel to other places to scavenge there. Most of these locations are unlocked from story progression, but once in a while you will get these question mark locations, and going to these will trigger random encounters. Often just a bunch of bad guys that want to steal your stuff. Combat is pretty simple, but you do have to keep an eye on Cody, as he has a life bar of his own, and often when he gets scared, he will just sit there and get beat up. And like I said, there is a story in the game which progresses mostly by you going to these new places and interacting with the NPCs there. Of course, it is a zombie apocalypse, so not much of the story will be happy and dandy. But I do think it's a pretty great for survival games to have a decent story to keep the players going. Teaching Cody does not only involve scavenging, crafting, and combat, but depending on the situation that you go through with him, you do get some dialogue options in which you can be a protective mother or a dismissive one, or sometimes an encouraging mother or a harsh one. Now, like I mentioned, I only played a few hours, so I'm not sure that these dialogue options will actually make a difference on the long run, but at the very least, for role-playing and immersion, it is at the very least pretty decent. Add to all that, you do start getting different symptoms each day, which affects you quite negatively. At first they do last just one day, but eventually they do keep getting worse and worse and end up stacking up with the other symptoms. Each day you do get to pick 1 out of 3 possible symptoms to get, but none of them seem that mild, so just pick what you think is less worse. So each day can play out very differently depending on the symptom you get and the location that you go to. And I'll admit, this is a game that I had more fun with than I first expected I would, and this is definitely a title that I will be playing more on my own, maybe even try to beat it. So I do think that it was worth the whopping price tag of $0, and I do recommend it. Okay, with that out of the way, of course, let's see if it runs on our handhelds. And this is something that I will continue to keep doing when I talk about these free games. I will try them on my handheld PCs, just in case someone out there with a handheld PC is wondering about whether it will run on their handheld PC or whether it will even play nicely. So let's try to do that. So here we are with my Rog Ally Z1 Extreme. Now of course the Z1 Extreme is not the best chip anymore, but it still runs almost everything pretty decently. Indie games like this will most likely have no issues. Let's put the sound up a little. And because it is connected to my Epic, I can just continue story and my save file is still there. So you can play on the computer and then you can play on your handheld, no problem. It does have cloud syncing, which is always fantastic to see. Yeah, so moving around with the right stick very smoothly. I am playing on the silent mode and it runs really smoothly because again it is just a 1GB indie game. As you can see, it does recognize the controls pretty well. It doesn't need any mapping, it just does this automatically, which is fantastic. Yeah, so I already thought this was a very fun game on my desktop. Now that I can play this on the handheld, this is even better, even better. On my desktop, I do prefer playing heavier games, but on handheld, I definitely do prefer playing indie games, just because it is lighter, you know. I do like that better. Can Cody do it already? Yeah, he can. Yeah, so it's not every time that Epic gives something that I do enjoy completely, but this time I think this one was definitely a good one. Oh, now he can plant by himself. Definitely a super cool game. Caught me by surprise. I do like the theme of it already. Just post-apocalyptic zombie apocalypse. I do like that quite a bit already. But just being a parental figure that you need to teach your child while you do see that your time is limited. It's just such a heartbreaking and yet fantastic storytelling. So yeah, definitely recommend this game on the desktop, and definitely recommend this game on the Rog Ally Z1 Extreme or any other handheld PC. We will try this with weaker devices, but if you have anything like the Rog Ally, like the Legion Go, MSI Claw, any of that, any of the newer stuff obviously is gonna run fine, but anything around this level will work perfectly fine, even on the low TDP. Oh, forgot to mention, just this whole time, the temperature did not go above even 60, obviously because it was on silent mode, but you know, still ran perfectly, no problem, no issue, just all around, great game to play on handhelds. So it did recognize the gamepad, I just had to start it and then change right away. Yeah, so I can't change the screen size apparently.
Somewhere safe. Will Dad be there?
2,000 years later.
I think it may have frozen. And see if it loads with just high settings, because maybe Ultra was a little too tough for this little guy. I mean, it is a fairly new game, I guess, but it's a 1.2 gigabyte game, right? I'm wondering if maybe it's because it's the first time rendering everything. So not even on window mode, on very low, it runs. It always gets stuck loading the map in, and so I'm not sure what's going on. I don't think it's an issue with performance, because it runs Resident Evil 5 without lagging, and that is a full-fledged 3D. As old as Resident Evil 5 is, it is a full-fledged 3D game, third-person 3D game, and compared to that, Undying is a 1.2 gigabyte indie game that the camera doesn't turn, you know. And when I first installed it, the automatic settings that they put it to was Ultra. So I don't think it's a hardware issue. It might be something with the DirectX, perhaps. I'm not too sure. I just know that it won't run. And it is a game that right until I tried here, I was about to say that it is a fun game that runs on any device, that is light enough to run in any device, but obviously on this one it doesn't work. That's not to say that it won't work on any of the lower end handheld PCs. It's just that this very first GPD Win 1 from 2016 is currently the weakest handheld PC out there. So even if it doesn't run this, it doesn't mean it won't run on, let's say, a Ambernic Win 600. It might not, who knows? But because the game is so light, I'd like to believe it runs on everything, and I think it should run on this as well. It's just not running now. So it is something software-wise that is stopping this, I think, instead of hardware issue. Because like I said, it does boot in, the cutscenes did play without any issue, the sound had no issue, even the settings, Oh? Okay. It just took a while, I guess. So it took forever, but it did load, which is interesting. I do want to turn on the fan here because this is getting quite hot. Yeah, so as you can see, it does run without lagging. It runs pretty well. Oh, I went down the stairs. It might get stuck again. We'll see. Yeah, so every time it needs to load a new map, it does get stuck quite a bit. I don't really know what it's trying to do. When it loads, it does work quite well. Oh, this time it was fairly quicker. Okay, so yeah, maybe it does work. you can see that moving around, there's no lag. I mean, obviously there shouldn't because this is not a very demanding game, but maybe it's not very well optimized because it is heating up the GPD Win a lot more than Resident Evil 5, which is interesting, a lot more than even Far Cry 3. And look at the game. It definitely shouldn't be doing that, but it is. I'm not too sure why that is. I'm thinking it's just not very well optimized perhaps, because when you can play, it does play perfectly without any issues, but on loading times it does take forever and a half. And then the heating issue also, it is heating up quite a bit, to the point where I don't feel too comfortable playing this while holding it like this. I feel less comfortable playing this than and it did turn off on me. I think it overheated to the point where it turned itself off, and that is not a very good sign. Yeah, so if you have a GPD Win 1, maybe don't play Undying on this because it will die on you. But on any other handheld PC, I assume it will work fine. It's just said that this little guy couldn't really handle it. So yeah, that is what I had to show you. Hopefully on other weeks, we will have games that will perform better. But yeah, if this continues, we might just have to stick to the Rog Ally for these free Epic Games videos. But yeah, let me know what you think. Leave a like if you enjoyed this video. Consider helping out the channel by clicking join down below. Subscribe to see more videos like this and of other collection videos that I make in the channel. And of course, always nerd on.